Hello, and I think we are live.
We're going to find out the hard way.
Yes. There's no one in chat to say if they can hear us or not, which is disappointing. But this
Yeah, I
is a
know,
test,
right?
and we didn't expect anyone to be here because it is like late at night for you and early in the morning for me, and it's a Sunday as well. So, anyway, we're just going to assume this is working. Hello, everyone. So, welcome back to another episode 22, I believe. Hello, Red Dead Panda. Welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me on. Again, bear with us, guys. This is our first attempt at doing a live, so just be patient. Thank you for having me on. As always, Gamers Initiative podcast. What episode are we up to? 22, right?
Yeah. Have you just had a listen on YouTube to see if you can hear us talking?
Yeah, I heard us talking.
Right,
I
brilliant.
just had to check. So we might as well go with that.
Go with the flow. So what you been up to? What you been playing? We've got our YouTube channels and our Twitter feeds now in the description. So if anyone wants to find out where we are, you can see it. It's also in your face on the screen right now. You can see our Twitter feeds, our Twitter handles. So what have you been up to, Red Dead Panda? What have you been playing? More importantly,
Um, I have actually just been playing. Like, I loaded up. Is it Arkham Knight or something on? Is it on Game Pass? I don't know which
I
Batman
did
game it is.
that.
I've never played it. I've never played any of the Batman games. So I decided to load one up and give it a go. So yeah,
What
I
made
thought
you
I
start
would.
playing that? I downloaded that the other day. That's how odd that is. I thought I was going through it and I thought,
Very
where's
old.
Batman? I completed them all
Do
and
you
I
know
thought, you know
why?
what, I'm going to play it again.
I loaded it up because it was like install or load play 9, 10 different Game Pass games this month or this week or something, whatever it was. And I was sitting at 9 out of 10, so I just loaded up another game that I had downloaded from Game Pass, and I started playing it. But I have basically just been jamming. Like, I completed 12 minutes
All right.
and got 100% of all the achievements on that. I have been playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps, thoroughly enjoying that, like way more than the first game, and I've really enjoyed the first game. Died so many times, and my older sister, she's been working from home, and on the day, because we have different days, she's been watching me play as when she's at work, and she's like, yeah, that game looks so hard. I'm like, yeah, I know. All you're seeing is me die a lot. And she's like, no, but you make it look so easy. I wouldn't be able to play that game. I'm like, um, yeah, nah, it's a hard game.
Yeah. Yeah, nah.
You make it my Kiwiism, and before I forget, kia ora to everyone who comes and watches this video. But yeah, I haven't. I mean, I've been watching What If, the third episode of What If,
I've
which
not
was way
watched the
better than.
third episode yet. Yeah. To be
Still,
honest, I've not really enjoyed it, to be honest, so far. It's
what
been
what if?
alright. Yeah, it's been okay. I don't think it's been excellent. I wanted what if stories like oh, it's Sega Man's on.
You wanted what? Continue. Hi, Sega Man.
Hello, Sega Man.
But anyway, continue. You wanted
Can he,
what
can
out
he
of that?
can he join us on this?
I have on Discord. He can.
Is he on Discord? You're on Discord, Sega. You can join the podcast. This is us going live. We'll
Wait
just
for
give it a
him.
go.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway.
yes, I wanted stuff like what ifs, as if like what if Hulk could change and did fight Thanos and defeat him. That's what I wanted to see. So what ifs like that, you know, different scenarios of endings and how things could have went.
Really?
Yeah, that's what
I
I wanted to
was
see. What if?
I think we're gonna see more of that, but I like the first episode, I like the third episode. Second episode, it was a big pass from me.
What was the
Um
second one?
that was the one where
Oh yeah. What was the
what's
point
the
of
name?
that?
It's Star Lord. I don't know. I don't know what the point is of that one.
What
But it
if
was interesting.
Black Panther was
But everyone was
Star-Lord? It
gonna
was random. Yeah,
die because Star Lord's dad comes and finds him,
yeah.
and then they create that mind thing and whatever. Anyway, what games have you been playing, Elite?
Right, so I've not played Psychonauts 2 yet. I've been trying 12 minutes, jumping in and out of that. I've been playing Shinobi Striker as I always do. What else I've been playing? Oh, Gears 5. I've been playing through the campaign of Gears 5 so I can play Hive Busters. What else have I been playing? What else is there? I can't think what else. There's so many games. Ascent. I've been jumped on Ascent again. Been playing Ascent. Yeah. So there.
Did
And we've got.
I
Go on, sorry.
I tried the Diablo 2 beta.
Yeah, no good. You
That
didn't like
that
it, did you?
launched. I did not like it.
No, I
My
think I saw
sister
that.
didn't like it.
Yeah,
I'm a big Diablo fan.
yeah.
So because I didn't like it, I went and played some Diablo 3 just to make my mind at
Please.
ease. I think I'll just
Feel
wait for
better.
Diablo 4. Yeah, make myself feel better. Play Diablo 3. Um, because I was playing it on console. It's not designed for console. It really isn't.
Nah.
Diablo 2, I would have had a more enjoyable experience if I was playing it on my laptop. So I think I'm going to play it there. If I then decide to actually purchase it, still umming and ahhing about that. But we shall see.
I think we lost Sega Man, I think.
Maybe that's all right. Anyway, continue. What's
I was going to say something else. I forgot what I was going to say now. I forgot.
Well, this is a great first start,
we
guys.
talked. Oh yeah, we talked while I was on Marvel. We got the Shang-Chi that's releasing in September, haven't we?
Eternals.
And then we've got Eternals releasing in October, November. And then we've obviously got the Spider-Man. Did you see Spider-Man? The Spider-Man trailer?
How it leaked first, and then they had to finally do the proper release for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually an interesting trailer. I think it's leading into something very, very. I can't wait to see what this culminates in. Like, can't wait. It's going to be great. I have high hopes for this because this story arc with the multiverse I find far more interesting than the build up to Thanos so far. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. The Spider-Man and in Eternals, because obviously I mentioned Eternals, and I'm looking forward to Shang-Chi as well. That looks interesting. I'm looking forward to more actually. I think they look quite good.
Right.
But should we get on? Should we start talking about gaming? Should we just do that?
Yeah.
I think Sega
Just
Man's left.
leading in there. People might come and watch. Some people might not. Who knows?
Yeah. But as I said, it's Sunday, my Sunday morning, your Sunday evening. So and we've not told anyone about this. This is pretty much a test. So thank you anyone for joining us anyway. So let's get into our topics. So our first topic was, I'm gonna have to move this screen that way. Sorry, you might hear my mouse jumping around a bit. The first topic was The Last of Us 2 Multiplayer. Right, so let's get the ball rolling on this. I'm just going to scroll up so I can actually see what I'm talking about. Right, so recently Naughty Dog released some details that they're hiring for The Last of Us 2 Multiplayer. Because let me give you some background on this. I've recently done a video on it, and I'm sure you all know. When the game was meant to have released, back in 2018, they announced when the game was going to release, which I think released in 2020. They said it was going to release with multiplayer, which was much loved. I mean, Naughty Dog games have had multiplayer since, I think Uncharted 2 had it, Uncharted 3, Uncharted 4, which was very popular. Then The Last of Us also had multiplayer, and they've all been very popular. So they announced that they was going to release The Last of Us 2, obviously, with multiplayer. Then a year later, I think 2019, I've covered all this in the video, so don't say I'm lying because I've got proof. I've got receipts, as always. They said in 2019 that they're going to delay the multiplayer and release it a short time after because of how amazing The Last of Us 2 is going to be, apparently, that's why. So now we're in 2021, sort of, quite a few years later, and they've just only started hiring for the multiplayer for this, and they're going to release it as a standalone game, which people say they already said that. Kind of didn't say that in 2019. They might have said it in 2020 or early 2021. But they're going to release it as a standalone game. They've only just started hiring, which they've not even started making the game. But I think what's interesting to take from, where have I got it? From the hiring thing they've got going. So they're hiring obviously for associate gameplay scripter, a gameplay scripter, a level environment designer, a systems designer. But I think the most interesting thing is monotonization and economy designer they're hiring for. Plus, I imagine this game is going to release on the PS5 for £70. So taking into account that they're probably going to release this game for £70 and they're looking to monotonize it, what's your take on that, Red Dead Panda?
My take on this is, just looking back as to all the controversy over Halo multiplayer, and the amount of people complaining about the fact that it isn't the co-op option isn't going to be available at launch. You're only going to be able to play your standard multiplayer and then single campaign story mode. You can't play co-op, couch co-op or whatever, online co-op, whatever it is, It's one or the other. I can't remember which one it is. And they're complaining and calling out Halo for being a unfinished game and it needs to be delayed. And if you're a true Halo fan, it's had the delay it deserved. It doesn't need another one. But talking about that, like you said, they announced that The Last of Us 2 was going to launch, or was going to release, and they were also doing multiplayer for it. So the way they spoke about it, they made it sound like it was coming out with the game when it launched last year. That was the lead up. And then they said, no, it's not going to launch. It's probably going to launch later. We're sitting at a year later since Last of Us 2 launched, and there still isn't any idea as to when this multiplayer is going to be available for these gamers who want to play it. But people are calling out Halo, where co-op, being a unfinished game as they're saying it, 3 months later, that's the roadmap, and then another 3 months before Forge becomes available. Like, comparatively, I think this is rubbish that this was a talking point. And now you're right, there is no one going up against and going, well, this clearly wasn't a finished game. I think it's stupid. I mean, I don't think at this point this needs to be a multiplayer that's in The Last of Us Part 2 world, unless they're going to do a completely different, somehow, story mode. Because maybe they're thinking it's going to be a cinematic experience, kind of like how, was it Titanfall 1? Was basically multiplayer with like a story component to it, but there was no actual single campaign story mode to it properly. So I think that that's what they may have to turn this into if they're talking about a cinematic experience. So it's going to be multiplayer, but it's still going to take you through a bit of a story, or they're just going to make it really aesthetically pleasing. And hopefully by that, Fruitgate meme, when you shoot fruit in The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer, it's probably going to have fruit mechanics. Yeah. Fingers crossed though, guys, because every time you come up with a ridiculous story, we're going to be there to show up and go, this is not the case. You pull this up on this, this, and this, and now it's happening to you. The hypocrisy, the level of hypocrisy, and the fact that they can't see that far into the future and realize that there's going to be a game launched on their console that's going to do the exact same thing. Pot kettle, what are we saying? Like, I don't know. So there was a interesting thing on Twitter where they're talking about like Battlefield 2042 multiplayer only, $70 price justified, right?
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart single player only, $70 price justified.
Yeah.
Returnal single player only, $70 price justified. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut only $70, single player only, price justified. Godfall single player only, $70 price justified. Halo Infinite, biggest campaign yet for single player. PC Cloud, $60 price,
and
not
MP?
Justified because multiplayer. The multiplayer, it's not justified at $60 because there is a delay for the couch co-op and the co-op and the Forge and that. But it's like, these games that all launched with less features, less types of game mechanics, like less things that you as a gamer can do options-wise, you're saying it's justified for the $70 price tag just because it's running on a PS5.
Yeah.
That's purely it. Xbox has chosen not to lift their console game prices to $70 because they realise the devs are already in there doing the work, so they don't need to charge you the extra $70. The idea behind PCs and console is consoles are now basically PCs, and it's very easy to adjust the settings. Yes, it's much easier to actually optimize for a console because the stats and the specs don't change, but you can there's still sliders and adjustments you can make. Games are scalable. And so for you guys to turn around and complain about Halo, this is my gripe with this, is the fact that this turned into this, and now we're hearing about the fact that we're going to get the multiplayer still a year later, still waiting to be developed or completed. You've been waiting a year for a game where the assets are already designed. Like, I'm pretty sure they can put together the game. They've done multiplayer in the past. I'm pretty sure they can up the mechanics, and it makes me wonder what they are actually doing. Obviously, COVID hasn't made it easy. Maybe they realised there was some stuff in there that needed to be worked on. People tested the game internally and were like, yeah, we need to do some things here. But I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point because I've got so much to say about it. What do you have an opinion there, Elite? Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm just sorting out the idiot that sort of spammed our chat. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know if you see those. Yeah. But anyway, yes, I do. I find it interesting that obviously PS fans and boys are so toxic that they come and join our channel. I find it, which proves our point. I find it interesting that, yeah, Sony are overcharging as always for their games, and they're allowed to, and the other side are not, even though it's a games of a service. I've made Sega Man, Thingy Man, what do you call it?
Mod,
yeah.
Chuck me in.
Yeah.
Chuck me in as a mod. Thanks, Sega Man.
You not
Hello, Billy Boy HD. Hello everybody. So the guy at Good Box who was watching earlier, like dislike, it is working, so I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Anyway, but yeah, what were your thoughts on the multiplayer itself? I mean, I've kind of talked about my disdain for the fact that Halo got so much crap, and now
I just don't get why it's getting so much hate, because they've removed co-op for 3 months, whereas they entirely moved multiplayer from the original Last of Us 2 game. It's not even going to be a DLC or add-on now. They're going to
director's
it's going to basically be a director's cut, and they're going to recharge you for it and monotonize it. They've already said they're going to monotonize it, and it's the same as all the other games. I think Battlefront, they've moved campaign from that, haven't they? I think the new Battlefront game isn't going to have a campaign, whereas
to be honest,
it's always a campaign before Battlefront. I'm pretty sure they've ordered a Battlefront campaign through them. And people will say yeah, but I only played them. They keep making damage controlling for these games, like The Last of Us 2. Yeah, but I only played a single player. I don't really care for the multiplayer. Or Battlefront is but I only care for the multiplayer. I didn't care for the campaign. Halo is oh no, we always like both of them equally, exactly the same amount, so they can't remove one of them. It is an absolute double standard, and it's getting boring. And the interesting thing from Push Square is they have time. Push Square, I'm starting to like Push Square, even though they're pro Sony website. They're really starting to stick it to Sony because no one else is, basically.
I think they're fans of PlayStation, and I think they're just not entirely happy with what PlayStation is doing. So I think it's very, very fair for them to kind of voice their opinion. Some of the things they say is absolutely rubbish, but for the most part, they've been hitting
recently. Yeah, you see,
hitting it where it hurts.
Sony fanboys been calling out getting the website cancelled and closed down, haven't they? Because of it. Because they call it, which is ridiculous. So you've got a site that finally starts calling out Sony that's robbing you, and you want to close them down because what? Because you want to be robbed? I don't get it. No, let Sony rob us. Stop talking about them. So yeah, they come out. The interesting thing they said is about the cinematic experience they're going to add to Last of Us 2 multiplayer, which is a bit worrying, really. I hope they're not going to turn it into like a cutscene fest. So you're running around trying to play multiplayer, and then it just randomly throws in 15-minute cutscenes into it. That's going to be awful.
I reckon that could be. Do you remember playing the original Mortal Kombat, where you would actually go through and you'd play through the story stuff, and you'd play each fight scene, and you'd get a bit more of the story. I think they're probably going to do something like that. Where you're going to play the multiplayer, whatever, and you might get some type of story or learn something. Who knows actually what the hell they're going to do, really? But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, so, but it is massively a double standard, and I think something needs to be called out, because it's not just Last of Us 2. I know we mentioned Last of Us 2 about them robbing people, but there is several games that are basically taking out modes from their games, but they're still releasing them at the same price. And as I've done in my recent video, at the end of the day, yes, Halo is a games of service. To complain about a game being incomplete, then you're not understanding the concept of games with a service. You're paying monthly into this service. You shouldn't expect games like that to fall, especially multiplayer games or big games like that. They shouldn't release complete. They can't release complete because sometimes they rely on the service they provide to keep them going. It's like, as I said in a recent video, if you've got Netflix or Disney, they can release a movie, but the main thing that makes them, but you can watch a movie and then you don't watch it again. What keeps people engrossed is things like series, things like the Disney series that they're doing now, where you have to keep coming back each week. And what they do, they don't release the whole thing at once. They release it weekly. So you have to keep coming back week after week, watching the episodes, thus paying week after week. It's exactly the same. They could have released it all at once, but they want, in 3 months' time, they want you to be engrossed and get back into it. They don't want you to leave their thingy, so they want you to pull you back in. Is that a bad thing? For me personally, it doesn't affect me. And secondly, I'm fully aware what a game's paying to a service is. So I know what I'm going to get for a service. I'm not shocked at all that they're doing this.
Think of Disney Plus like the fact that in relation to Game Pass, right? You've got, or Disney in general, you've got your TV series, right? And if we're looking at Marvel right now, you've got your TV series, which is, yes, bringing the story forward and people are engaging week by week. But in between that, so think of those as like AA IPs. In between that, you will get a movie release, which is like your AAA banger, which is the equivalent of Game Pass. When you think about it, you've got your little, what they call Game Pass fodder, when your indie games or your more AA studios and things like that. And then you'll have your big AAA bangers, which are going to get you in between and get you from A to B between all those games. So you're going to have a consistent, steady stream of games. And whether or not you are looking at that on Game Pass or just games within Game Pass as games as a service, you're going to be consistently given content. I mean, looking at Destiny, they have been a lot more consistent in around their vision and what they want to do around content drops since they left Activision, which is thankfully. But yeah, I think the fact that people have completely forgotten that multiplayer was a thing and they've been really quiet about it, and then they're pulling Xbox up on every little thing. Until things are fine within your 4 squares of your household, just keep it to yourself, mate. Don't throw stones when we can throw them right back at you. And they're still hiring, like I said, it's been a year. They shouldn't be at this point unless they've had some development woes, because lo and behold, Xbox has development hell and everyone thinks the game should be cancelled and Xbox is dying or 343 is dying and blah 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 blah. Like, the level of hypocrisy and the level of going from 0 to 100 when they think they can one-up one part of the gaming community. We're not living in 2013 anymore. You can't get away with half the rubbish you got away with the last generation, because you now are on the other side feeling that pain, because there's a lot of negative news coming out about PlayStation in comparison to positive news. And there is a lot more positive news coming in about Xbox than there is negative news. Just take it on the chin, have a growth mindset, suck it up, and turn on your console and play something if you have any games.
Yeah. I was going to say something, but I completely forgot. I was thinking about it, and then I started reading the chat, and then I lost track of what I was thinking. Everyone can hear it. Everyone can hear it's fine. Yeah. What was I going to say now? Screw it. I hate when that happens. Oh no, what I was going to say is, actually, I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, no, I reckon this is exactly what's happened. Just like they've done several times already this generation, is I wouldn't be surprised if they told Naughty Dog to delay the MP, wait until next gen, and then release it, and we'll release it as a standalone title. Just like all the director's cuts and all stuff like that, and the remasters and things like that. I reckon they're purposely going out and telling these people to hold back, hold fire, wait until the PS5 drops, then we'll get going, and then we'll release it, and then we'll give you more money, because we'll release it as a standalone game. That's what Sony's doing. They could have released this game. They could have released multiplayer. I mean, it's multiplayer.
I think it's held back because they knew they were going to be dry. I feel like they weren't prepared for the way COVID screwed up the industry the way, so they need to fill it, which is where you're getting those director's cuts, which is why this has been delayed as a multiplayer game, because it's going to be that title that fits in between their AAA bangers.
Yeah, it's PlayStation filler.
And they're a bit, PlayStation filler, guys.
I
bit of PlayStation filler. I like that. Yep. We got PlayStation filler. There we go. Game Pass filler. Now there's PlayStation filler. Yep, here first. But yeah, just moving right along there. I mean, they're probably waiting for the new SKU of the PS5, right?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I was just gonna say, because let's be honest, the PlayStation 5's got nothing coming for it until it's got God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't know if we can count Gran Turismo because it's a sim. That's not a game. So it's got God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn next year, but they're both coming to PS4. for PS5, it's got nothing. It's got no next gen exclusives confirmed until 2023 at least. So yeah, and they've got, and then with Horizon Forbidden Dawn, where it's called, isn't out until February next year if it doesn't get delayed again, even though it's promised this year, like God of War and Gran Turismo 7. That's not until next year. So yes, these are definitely filler. They've got nothing now until next February, which is 5 months away. So they're just filling the hole with remasters, director's cuts. But I don't reckon we'll get this. We'll get
and
this.
Xbox games, right? First
Yeah,
party
Xbox
studio
games.
Xbox
Yeah,
game?
Deathloop, Ghosts of Tokyo,
Psychonauts 2.
Psychonauts 2, another one. Yeah, which takes us nicely on Psychonauts 2 review bombing. They're review bombing something. Why are they? Firstly, I like how this all started out. Was first on Twitter. They was comparing Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts 2. There was that idiot. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Eddie
and when we say they were comparing, we're talking about the PlayStation fan base,
Yeah.
comparing Ratchet and Clank
Ratchet
2, AAA studio,
Yeah.
which had all this backing behind it money-wise, to a AA Kickstarter campaign game.
Yeah. They were comparing the graphics.
They were comparing these two, and they were comparing art style and graphics, and monetary-wise, they aren't even on the same level. Like, that is not even a comparison that you can make. It's like comparing apples and oranges. It's that simple of how different these games are.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, continue. Sorry, I totally went and took over from you, Elite.
You stole my thunder. And then what did we get a few months later? Psychonauts does release, and it scores exactly the same as Ratchet and Clank. They both score 88. In fact, on the PC, Psychonauts scores higher than Ratchet and Clank.
89, right?
Yeah, 89.
89 on
so
PC.
it's actually rated higher than Ratchet and Clank. So, and then they're all flip-flopping and going back and damage controlling it now and saying, but it's not an Xbox title, which previously they're saying it was an Xbox title and it's trash and it's Game Pass fodder. No, it rates the same as Ratchet and Clank. They're just damage controlling the whole thing and trying to deny the whole thing ever happened, like always. And then what the most interesting thing of this is, or other than the review bomb, which we'll go into in a minute, is we've got the Ratchet and Clank is a next gen game. It's powered by the magical SSD, which was made by a god, by the genius Mark Cerny, apparently. Because now there's news coming out that
from another developer,
which we've heard. I've done it on a video previously. We've heard previously that a developer said that Ratchet and Clank can totally run on the Xbox Series X, where they were saying it can only run on the thingy. He said it can totally run on the Xbox Series X. Then we heard rumours that it might go to PS4. We've also heard that, didn't we? And they were saying, then how did that work if it needs the SSD to work? They said it might go to the PS4. But now another developer's come out and said, do you want to go with this? Do you want to drop the thunder?
No, you can keep going.
That it could run on the PlayStation 3. A developer's come out and said the same game, and he says it's kind of smoke, which I said a long time ago. It's smoke and mirrors, and then someone shows Psychonauts 2 using basically exactly the same thing in Psychonauts 2 that Ratchet and Clank does. When you go through a door, there's like a door that appears, isn't there? And you go through that and you peer into another world. It's like seamless. And then the guy shows you running backwards and forward through his door, and it seamlessly just takes you from one world to another. One world to no load times or anything. It does exactly what Ratchet and Clank does. And this is a crowdfunded game that's not got anywhere near the budget that Ratchet and Clank does. It's also not running on the magical SSD either. So
no, but that's the difference between mechanical hard drives versus SSDs. Yeah. Regardless of the speed difference between Xbox and PlayStation's SSDs, they can both do certain things that they couldn't do previously because they're no longer limited by the slow read and write speeds of a mechanical hard drive.
Yeah.
They don't have that problem anymore. So there's been a lot of people on Twitter stating after this article came out, because more than one developer has been saying stuff, and a lot of the community on PC side has also come out and said that this is something that is already available on PC, so it's something that's not actually just solely for the PlayStation 5 and their magical SSD that can cure cancer, apparently. Second GPU in the system. But they came out and were saying, like, this can be done on PC already, so why are you guys capping for the fact that it's only available on the PlayStation 5. I mean, we've had so much this can only be done on the PlayStation 5 crap that's been debunked and debunked and debunked within the last 12 months. You think they would stop saying that rubbish? Because UE5 demo can only be done on PlayStation 5. Factually incorrect, guys. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. In regards to them comparing these games, specifically, and it's interesting that there's now rumors of the fact that we are probably going to hear that they are going to port this to the PS4. If they don't port it to their PS4, it's either they're saving face or it is something that they can't do on a mechanical hard drive, which would make sense about why they are saying they aren't going to port it to PS4. Yeah. Possibly. Just the way they've designed it, who knows? But in theory, these developers are saying that this can already be done on a mechanical hard drive, could have been done on the PS3, could already be done on the PC already. So either someone's telling the truth or someone's not telling the truth, and either this dry level of games that PlayStation is experiencing is going to get less dry by releasing a game to PS4 that could apparently only run on the PS5. Yeah. I think we're probably going to see a PS4 version at some point, and then you're going to have people just going to ground and pretending like they died on Twitter. Because the level of crap on their face...
But they will damage control it. You know they will. You know they'll make up something and say it's okay because, they'll deflect to Xbox and say, yeah, but Xbox is doing this. You know this is happening.
No, I think Sony will somehow talk it into a point where they'll make it like it's a positive, and then PlayStation fanboys will eat it up.
Yeah, it's a bonus. We're giving it to you, and they'll be like, but they're giving it to us on PS4 for free or something, like, or with extra content. So it doesn't matter now that they lied to us. And certainly be rubbing his hands together going, suckers. As always. Amount of time he's done that this generation.
Back to our actual topic. Yeah. Back to the actual topic, Elite. So, what was the topic? No. So, Psychonauts 2 is, congratulations, got released this week. It's doing really, really well. Yeah. It's reviewing very well by many different news outlets and review sites and everything like that. There is a review up for the PS4. There's a review up of reviews for the PS4 on Metacritic. There's reviews for the Xbox versions and then PC. And like we said, the Xbox version is sitting at 88, which is the same as Ratchet & Clank's. And then the PC is sitting at 89. But what's interesting, and I think I found this interesting, is the amount of people review bombing the Xbox Metacritic.
Yeah.
No one is. There's a couple. Well, I haven't checked today, but there was less reviews for the PS4. There was like one actual live proper review from a news outlet on the PS4 version at the time when I last looked at it, and then there was all these negative ones. It was only like 20, but comparatively, when we looked at the Xbox one, they were actually not even review bombing the version that they would play on their console. They were review bombing the Xbox version of the game. Yeah. This is the user reviews. I thought it was stupid. And the reason why I thought it was stupid is because previously I did mention the fact that people were comparing apples and oranges in relation to these two games. So what initially happened was people were comparing an Xbox game, first-party studio game. So they were comparing Psychonauts 2 to a first-party PlayStation game, right? Which was Ratchet & Clank. And the reason why they're comparing them is because one is owned by Xbox now, wasn't owned by them at the time the game was first in development, when it was a AA or indie, whatever you want to call it, and it was crowdfunded. And then the other one was AAA funded by Sony. So they're comparing them, and the reason why they're comparing them was one was Xbox and one was PlayStation. Then when the game started reviewing well when it actually released, they then turned around because it was getting the same scores in Ratchet & Clank, and they said, well, it wasn't actually an Xbox game. So it's either an Xbox game or it's not an Xbox game, and you either can say it's an Xbox game when you might want to make fun of it, but when you realize it's actually doing well and you want to damage control the fact you made fun of a game that is actually worth playing and could be a Game of the Year contender, it's suddenly no longer an Xbox game because it wasn't originally funded by Xbox. Yes, that's true. It is now funded by Xbox, considering we now have a Series S and Series X version which is optimized to run on next gen. PS5 only runs it in backwards compatibility because of the contractual agreement that they had signed, which gave them a PS4 and PS4 Pro version, didn't give them a next gen version because the acquisition stopped that. But for people to just turn around and then try and like damage control the fact that it's doing well, you're either supporting the devs or you're not supporting the devs. Which is it?
I think the
Make
interesting
up your
thing,
freaking mind. So frustrating.
The fun thing taken from this was that Broken Gamer HDR or something, who's a PlayStation fanboy, that was caught out on Twitter saying he played the game, he liked it, but then someone posted his review bomb on the Xbox version, not on the PlayStation version, but on the Xbox version, because he uses same Twitter handle as he does review bombing Xbox games, stupid enough. And he scored the game 2 out of 10. And then was basically just slandered the game, hating on it and stuff, and said this game is trash, yada yada yada. And he got called out and started just blocking everyone. And then I think he got banned as well from Twitter as a result of just being stupid, basically. But yeah,
I thought his post was stupid. Like the fact that they had pulled up receipts on him, and he was complaining about how he had only played Psychonauts 1 and he didn't like it, and this was just basically Psychonauts again. And he even mentioned in the review that he hadn't even played the game, but he thought it looked like arse and would play like arse because of how the first game was, because it was a game designed off a game from 16 years ago. Technically, yes, it's a sequel, but the mechanics and improvements and optimizations and differences in engine would mean that this is now a game designed for current generational, like cross-gen. So you're not dealing with a game where the mechanics were from 16 years ago. Obviously, everything's been streamlined and improved. Like when you get remasters, they generally run better. So think of that, but this is a sequel. It's not a remaster, it's a sequel. Graphically, it's very impressive for the art design that they did, for what the mechanics they put into the game. And people are loving it. Just play the game, support them. I mean, Sorry, go.
I'll say what I find interesting as well is the hypocrisy from Metacritic, who remember when Last of Us 2 got review bombed, so they started removing the low scores from Last of Us 2, but that was mainly review bomb from PlayStation fans because they hated the game. So that they removed negative review scores, but Xbox games, they don't seem to remove the negative review scores, which I find oddly biased and ignorant. Like this is getting clearly review bombed by PlayStation fans, because you know they're PlayStation fans because they're on Twitter and they're PlayStation fans. But Metacritic are not doing anything to combat Xbox games being review bombed, whereas it's Sony, they remove the scores. Very interesting.
I mean, if you're going to talk trash about a game, don't do it on a site where people might go and go to that game. Like, this is a game, if you haven't played it, like, if you have not played a game, do not go to a review site and put a review in, because people who trust those sites, which are the casual gamers who don't understand anything at that point, because they don't understand how those work, will go to that site and go, is it doing well or not? All these user reviews looks really bad. You and I last year, we haven't played The Last of Us Part 2. Because we don't own a PlayStation, right? You and I didn't talk greatly about that game because there were concerning things that were happening with the studio and
story,
whatever else on that game and the story and then those sort of things. So we hadn't played the game yet. We did talk not in the best light about it. However, I did not go on to a review site, post a review as a user score. Try that.
Streaming, it's going again now.
Should be working. Fingers crossed again. Is it connecting it to YouTube? Oh, I don't know yet. We shall see.
Is that working now?
One moment.
Or is it going to come under? Huh?
I think it might be working again. Yep. Okay.
So it's carried on under the same thingy.
Yeah, I think it's fine. We'll just continue. What were we talking about? Sorry, guys.
Right, yeah, sorry, we had a buffering issue then, it just cut out. That's the problem with Get going live.
Yeah, going live.
Yeah, so
we'll figure things out as we go.
Actually, I caught it quite quickly, so yeah, we didn't really miss too much. Other than us just sort of correcting the problem. So we're live on YouTube again. We're still going alright, are we?
I think so. Yeah. We'll just it looks like we're going okay. Continue.
Right. So should we get on to the last topic?
If anyone else watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say so.
Yeah, because we're more than halfway through.
Sorry, that's totally thrown us. We were on a roll and then that threw us.
Yeah, I think we've done that subject to death in a way.
But yeah, I think we've done it. Psychonauts 2, give it a go. I still have to finish the first one and then I'll play the second one. I'm not going to play the second one without starting the first one, and I'm waiting for my Series X console to come back before I play it. Because I want beautiful fidelity in 4K.
I really wanted to get that Halo Infinite Series X, but they've all been sold out, haven't they? And see the eBay as a selling them for like $1.5 grand.
I messaged Phil and some other people going, I think that they need to create some sort of skin for my console, so I can purchase a cool Halo skin and put it on my Series X, because that console looks so good, so good. Oh,
right.
Damn it.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? But the thing is with their custom consoles, which is good, is they usually give them special noises and things as well, don't they?
This one does have a special noise. It's got a Halo noise. More expensive than the standard console. It's like $50 more.
Yeah.
They've changed the color on it. They've put some laser etching on the outside. Yeah. So it looks like people who get it, you deserve all the bragging rights. I saw one going for $1.5, $1,500. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. What? It's not fair. I think that those are the kind of things I think they need to sell in shops, not through online things. I think they need to stop. They need to stop selling these things online to just ruin the scalpers, basically, because it's just not fair.
I think those should be like a lottery type thing,
Well, I don't know. You should, if you've got Xbox,
put your interest in. They should have just done put your interest in, kind of like what PlayStation did when they were like, hey, support you, put your interest in if you want a PS5, and then they started putting out the code. So I think if people were interested in getting a Halo thing, they could put their thing in, and then people could check their stuff against them and decide whether or not they're a scalper, possibly or not, because then you're only getting one at a time, so it's per person.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they're allowing scalpers to buy more than one. But I don't know, or you should just be able to buy it. You buy them through the Microsoft Store. You just go straight through that.
Yeah, but bots can do that too.
Can they? Oh, right. I don't know what you do, other than if you just have to buy them physically from a shop. Yep. That's the best way.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to walk into a shop and say, "Can I have 50 Xbox Series X's, please?" And the hopefully the shop will say no. Well, they probably wouldn't. They'd probably go, "Yep, go on, take them. I'm going home."
But yeah, I mean, the Elite Series 2 has a Halo design now as well. That one sold out completely as well. I really wanted to grab one for my sister, mainly just because I know that she has the right bumper on her Elite controller is a bit hit or miss sometimes, because her and I thrash our controllers like nobody's business. And so, okay, he's saying no problems here. Wicked, thank you, Sega Man. But what was I saying? Yeah, so I wanted to get her that one, and that was sold out. I was really gutted because I went to the Microsoft store for that one. So I was gutted that wasn't available, but I'll survive.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my own. I've got 1,000 other controllers to use. I don't really need another one. She doesn't really need another one. She's got heaps of controllers that she can use as well. But yeah, moving on to our actual last topic.
We drifted off.
Actual last topic. Yeah, sorry. The PS5 revision. So you and I talked about this, and we've talked about it on Twitter and chat.
21, yeah.
And we've talked about it. Yeah, I actually, because we were trying to figure out what the 300 grams difference could be in weight and we made jokes about it, but I always thought it was going to be the heatsink, and turns out I was right. If you haven't watched it on YouTube, there are a couple videos out there. Austin Evans and this other guy did like a collab on. They'd got the launch PS5 edition, and then they got the new SKU that is launching in Japan and in Australia at the moment, which is 300 grams lighter. So it's got the new screw on the bottom, so you don't have to use like a screwdriver to unscrew the base unit to put it on its stand. And it's got a new fan in it, so it actually, the fan, it's slightly quieter than the launch console.
Yeah.
Slightly quieter, like very minute. The interesting thing though is if you're listening to that noise, and I was talking to you about this before the show started, was the launch PS5 had 2 fan SKUs in them. So one version had one type of fan and another version had another type of fan, which meant that their noise difference would either be the same or different. We don't know. There's no one ever tested that. But we don't know if Austin, like which fan version Austin Evans was testing against when they tested this new SKU of the PS5. The other side of it and was opening up the console itself.
Yeah.
The heatsink, completely different. Like the actual whole unit, smaller, lighter, cheaper. Like even when they opened up the section for the oh my god, the SSD expansion slot, it was a different coloured PVC board. Was it lighter or darker? I can't remember. It was a different coloured PVC board.
Yeah, look at the picture.
Yeah. Which one is it? It was darker. Sorry, the other one was lighter. Yeah, so they've changed something. There's none of that copper thing up the top. So, I mean, the fact that when they did their thermal testing on it, it tended to run about a couple of degrees, more than a couple of degrees
9
warmer.
degrees hotter.
Well, I think it's 9 degrees when you're talking about it in Fahrenheit, but I think it was like 3 to 4 to 5 degrees in Celsius. I can't remember the difference because they talked about the heat in the video for both Fahrenheit and degrees Celsius. Yes, increased wattage, smaller heatsink, cheaper materials. Yeah. They had only just recently announced that their consoles, and you talked about this, was now no longer losing the money. So they weren't necessarily making a profit. That we are aware of, but they weren't losing money, so they're either probably breaking even or they might have been making a slight profit now. This is going to allow them to make more of a profit. There'll be more headroom, more gain because they're using cheaper materials. Copper's expensive. They've got different coloured PVC board. Maybe that's just because of manufacturing at the moment. Everything's very tight with COVID happening. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the PS5 revision? Because I have lots to say about it.
Yeah, well, it's misleading again. It's only been misleading. Firstly, we was told at the beginning of the generation that this is created by Sony, who's a god and a genius, and it's flawless and fantastic and perfect. And now, in less than a year, they revised it, and kind of slyly, they didn't really announce a revision. They've not said we were releasing a revised PS5, yada yada yada. It's sort of the information we got was sort of second hand and third hand in that, and yes, they have sent out a revised amongst the masses. So they've just sort of been releasing PS5s and amongst them the revised versions, which as we're saying is running hotter. It's got a smaller heatsink. It's got cheaper materials, but costs the same as the original PS5. So your friend could have one PS5, and it's significantly better than your PS5. Because your one's using the cheaper materials, it's got a small heatsink, it's running hotter, but they're the same price, and it's misleading and it's greedy. And we said this in our podcast. I think it was podcast 20 or 21 when the news first come out. We were saying
probably about
I said there's no way they would revise and make a new console unless they're making hardware changes because it just wouldn't be worth the cost. And you said they're probably removing or changing the heatsink. And we was both right on that. And we said that. Because and people say, no, they're just going to make it lighter. You would not go to this effort just to make a console lighter. For one, that we said, exactly word for word, we said, no one's ever complained of the weight of the PS5. It probably weighs about the same as the Xbox Series X. No one's ever complained about the weight of it.
Complained about the size of it.
Complained about the size of it.
Who cares about the weight?
Yeah, the weight. But complained about the size, but they've not changed the size of it. But to So to say we're going to make it lighter, hide that behind the fact that they're actually more it's lighter because they're removing and changing the hardware inside it, which as a result it's going to be hotter. I also said the wattage is increased to 230. I don't know what it was originally, but it's using more power now, the new one, which is quite worrying really when the console is, I think it was stated by Digital Foundry, is already overclocked. To get to where it is at the moment, it's overclocked. So they've removed the heatsink, might have put in a smaller heatsink, it's hotter and it's using more power, and I just don't think this is going to be good. And it's using cheaper materials. I just don't think this is good, and you can see why they've not made this public, because if this was in shops and they said that when you bought it, if you went up into a shop, walked up to the counter and said, I'd like to buy this console, and you go, yes, by the way, it's going to be hotter, it's going to use up more energy, it's using cheaper materials, but it costs the same price as the old one, you'd say, I don't want that one, can I have the older one then? That's what you'd say.
Yeah.
You would just, I don't want, yes, give me the cheaper one, please, but for the same amount of money. You just wouldn't do that.
Skimp on materials. So no one, you're 100% right. No one cared about the weight of the console, because they knew that coming into this next generation, they've got more powerful components that need adequate cooling. And as I've been saying this whole time since they did the teardown video last year for the PS5, there is not adequate cooling in that console. They've now removed things that help cool the console. Yeah. So again, there's not enough adequate cooling. Yes, Austin Evans did make a point when he was talking about like that video made a point. They've now had 9 months worth of PS5 data coming from regular gamers playing the games, because they said they were going to make updates to work on the fan speeds and see if that needed to be adjusted, because they're trying to manage that frequency variance in relation to when the GP needs power and when the CPU needs power. They need to get that balance right to make sure that the system isn't pulling power away from those components that actually need it to run the games as well as they are running them now. But part of that means making sure that all the components are adequately cooled and looked after, because you're looking at the longevity of the system. Yeah. And is the system going to be here 10, 15 years down the line? Because there are consoles that you can have from day one that had adequate cooling in them, and you could be playing them for 10, 15 years later down the line, and there shouldn't be any issue. But when you're stressing these components, and obviously it's within heat specs, guys, so they wouldn't be releasing this console if they thought that this was going to dramatically reduce its lifespan. But the fact that not every console is built the same, yes, they've got all the same components in them, but there's always some consoles which have slight imperfections in them and they might die, and they've just increased the risk and chance of that happening. I mean, for me, if I was buying a PS5, I wouldn't want a new SKU. And you and I both said that we would wait till they had released a new SKU of the console with less issues and less problems, and hopefully they improve the cooling in it. I don't even want this revision, because I would rather have a launch edition. Heavier, yes. Bigger heatsink, yes. Better adequate cooling. And then, yes, the fan is an improvement, guys, and they've done something to do with the Wi-Fi and blah, 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 other cables in that system. But why would I put money down the same price for the PS5 when I know that they have skimped and cheaped out on components and cooling to make more of a profit, unless you can prove to me it runs better and is better at everything than the launch edition? I ain't putting money down on the PS5. You've just given me another reason not to purchase one yet. Yep. If they're going to do a Pro, release a Pro for me, because then I'd rather get a Pro than get this new SKU. You and I were also talking before the show that it hasn't even been a year since the PS5 is out. There is already a drastic revision in regards to cooling efficiency, because that's what happens. People complained about the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death because there was a problem with cooling. And then people complained about the PS4, and specifically the PS4 Pro, because it sounded like a jet engine. They're just making it harder and harder for me to confidently invest in their ecosystem, because based on thermal dynamics and how things work, with electronics, no thank you on that console. That's all I'm going to say. It's like, why would I spend that money?
The lack of games that are coming out. There's no games,
Yeah.
so why would you buy a PS5? They revised it and made the console worse, and there's no exclusives coming to it that have been confirmed at all. So,
That's hard. That's hard to say because that argument was used for why would you buy a Xbox One X when we were very dry on the game front. I think it's just you're buying it for the promise that is PlayStation. But at the moment, that promise is
there's no promise.
Delay station.
Yeah, there's no promise because they've not announced anything. At least on the Xbox side, they've always announced and always kept you up to date with things. They've not actually told us anything, and then we keep getting told things like the games that are coming are not only delayed, but they're going to be on last gen consoles, which was another misleading thing they did at the beginning generation when they told us buy a PS5, it can do all this magic stuff, plus it's got X amount of exclusives. Now it can't do those magic things, and those exclusives are now on last gen consoles. It's just a mess, and I'm not shocked that they're getting away with it because the media, especially IGN, will always damage control. And who was it who posted something on Twitter earlier about what they said about Halo? About the Halo thing being wrong about removing co-op, but then the same people the following day wrote about The Last of Us 2 multiplayer and saying how it's like it's a good idea. I think it was GameSpot. I think most probably. I have to put it on Twitter. I think it's GameSpot. The following day said removing multiplayer and releasing it as a single thing is a good idea for Sony. And you're thinking it's just such double standards. It's incredible. And
I mean, we're looking at a revision of the SKU, right?
Yeah.
Of this console. Not even a year later. So maybe PlayStation at GDC, Tokyo Game Show, whatever it was, that game developers talk that Sony did last year. Oh my god, why can't I think of what it's called? And most of them couldn't follow along, and they just were like, "Oh, pretty sounds." Spec-wise, they had no idea what was actually going on.
yeah.
But he made it sound like this console was very well designed, very well thought out. A lot of time and effort went into making it to making it this wondrous feat that should be Gen 9 consoles. At the price that they were offering it, the most time they spent in was updating the controller to turn it into, yes, improving the HD rumble and all of that. But that's where I feel like a lot of that time and effort went into. The controller rather than the console, because if Xbox had come out and we had found out there was a revision on the Series S or the Series X this far into the generation already, and it weighed 300 grams difference, and then we found out they adjusted the heatsink, there'd be blood in the streets in the sense of PlayStation toxic fanboys would be coming out and just ripping us a new one to no end. But that, I just can't. It frustrates me so much.
Yeah, ignorance.
So the revisions that are going to be for the Xbox revisions will just be slight adjustments for improvement, because that's what you do. You make slight adjustments if you've got the engineering right, thermodynamics right, and they have on Xbox's Gen 9 systems. Huge difference.
I don't think we'll get a revised Xbox Series X. I think we might not get anything till the mid-gen refresh, which will be in a few more years. As for PlayStation 5, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another refresh next year, followed by the mid-gen a revised version next year, followed by a mid-gen refresh the year after that. I wouldn't be surprised if I do that. I wouldn't be surprised.
A revised version that's 300 grams heavier.
yeah. Or complete revised version, and then the following year they do a mid-gen refresh, and the console looks probably completely different. They scrap the design because it's crap, basically, and completely redesign it, and the new PS5 will look completely different. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the fact that this isn't really blown up on Twitter yet. In this, I don't feel like the story is still building. Yeah, there's very little coverage. Like there's minor coverage, but it hasn't fully blown up into the proportions of big mainstream media yet.
Because it won't.
It's going to. It definitely will.
Yeah.
It definitely will. Considering the heat difference, that is enough just to go, why would you purchase this system?
Yeah, hotter
That is
machine.
enough. That's the concerning
Yeah.
thing. Like, people talked about how in Japan they like light and small systems. Just making it 300 grams lighter does not make it a hell of a lot
Same
smaller. It's
size.
still a massive
Yeah.
fucking unit. It's
Still can't.
huge.
Yeah, still can't do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
I feel bad for the consumers who are going to be purchasing this version of the PS5.
I feel bad for
I really
the
do.
casual people that won't know who'll be buying it off the off the street. You know, the non fanboys. I feel sorry for them, little Timmy and stuff
Yeah.
like that, who will be buying it, and then probably in a year's time it'll break down, and have to buy another one,
Hmm.
or they'll go to Sony and say, my machine that you sold me that overheats broke down, and Sony will be like,
Yeah.
yeah, so buy another one, and they'll go, well, can I have a refund? And Sony will be like, no, just buy another one. That's what they do, don't they? They don't refund anything. Just buy another one. Oh, okay. And then they tally
Buy
that
another
those
one and
numbers
make
up.
sure you subscribe.
Yeah, buy another
Make
one
sure you
so
subscribe
then
to
we can
PS
boast
Plus
about
to
the
keep your
sales.
cloud saves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I posted the other day, didn't I? Did you see that?
Yeah,
Team
you
Dog
did.
replied to that. Yeah. Which I was shocked about. Yeah.
You've got a good opinion, people will reply to you. Don't be shocked,
How
Elite.
does that get away with it though? How is it like people have to subscribe to PS Plus so they can keep their saves? Otherwise, if they unsubscribe, they lose their saves. How is that? How is that
Are you
allowed?
saying that their saves are locked behind a paywall?
Yeah. How
Because
incredible is that?
Xbox got rid of their last paywall that things were locked behind, and that was multiplayer games that were free to play
Yeah.
are now no longer locked behind a paywall, but your cloud saves are locked behind a paywall? Like,
Your
that's a bit
saves.
rubbish.
Saves for a game locked behind a paywall. How much control is that? You want to play this game?
I mean-
Yep, can lose your saves unless you give us money. What? Ridiculous.
Saying that, Xbox has learnt, because yes, in the 360 generation, you had to have Xbox Live or Gold.
Yeah.
You had to have Gold in order to have your cloud save availability to use. But they got rid of that in the Xbox One generation. And now we're in the next generation after that.
Yeah.
So now you guys are still locked behind a paywall? Like,
Seem to be adding paywalls.
outraged,
as the generation
please.
goes on.
I'm
Sony.
outraged for you.
Yeah, Sony's going on. They seem to be adding paywalls and making people pay more money.
Oh yeah, they've added a $10 paywall for next-gen games.
And this is the market leaders we're talking about here. These are apparently the ones that are selling so many consoles and making so much money, but they're continuously throwing in little paywalls and raises and
Yeah.
just and rehashes and fillers and stuff like that. Everything points to them lying. They're lying about their sales. They're lying about their profits, and they're losing money. And they're trying to recoup it in any way they can by selling budget PS5s, by raising the prices of games which are running on PS4, but they're still charging you more for better worlds. They said that's why originally they said they was going to charge you more because the world's going to be better and bigger, but they're not because they're playing on the exact same game on PS4, and things like charging you for your saves. Everything
yeah.
just sounds of desperation. They're just trying to recoup money. Whereas Game
I
Pass,
think
Xbox, there's no panic at all because Xbox is just helping them out, carrying them.
I think part of the problem is their fan base, though, like their dedicated, loyal fan base, because there are people who would rather pay $70 for a multiplayer game,
Yeah.
which can be played on PC, played on Xbox, played on PlayStation, and they'd rather pay $70 to play it on their system when they could play for it cheaper on PC, because all of them have PCs, guys, or they could pay for it on their Xbox, because not only was Gamescom, was it this week, that last week, I don't even remember when Gamescom was, but it was okay. The biggest announcement from Gamescom was the fact that Xbox One generational consoles will be able to use the cloud, even the Series X and Series S will be able to use the cloud to play games. So if you're on a last gen system and you can't get hold of your next gen console yet, you can still play next gen games via the cloud. It means that if I decide there's a game I want to try out and there's a cloud version available for me, I don't have to wait to download it. I can play it immediately via the cloud. And if I like it, I could then choose to download it onto my console locally and play it off the SSD if I wanted. But it means that I could be downloading it in the background while I play the cloud version. This is what the Xbox community has been talking about. If you listen to the RDX podcast, if you listen to the what It Takes Two one. I can't think of what it is. The one that Randolph Thor does,
Yeah.
and Boom's podcast and all these other podcasts have been talking about that you as a gamer are put in the middle, and the ease of access for you to play games is being like all the roadblocks are being removed in front of you. Those roadblocks of the fact we're in a shortage because of a pandemic, that we can't get enough units out, that Xbox can't get enough units out so you can buy a console for next gen, isn't going to be the worst thing ever for you. You can wait a little bit longer. They're taking care of part of a community, and there will be building in that in-store base even more for Game Pass Ultimate, which gives you access to PC, which gives you access to cloud gaming, which gives you access to Game Pass on console, which gives you access to all of that. And then when they eventually upgrade to next gen, that install base for Game Pass is already embedded because they understand the benefit of Game Pass, because they were able to take it with them from last gen into next gen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I just went on a tangent. Have at it, Elite.
No, I think should we end it there? Should we end it there? End it there?
Yeah, what are we sitting at? If
Just over.
Yeah, I think so.
Over an hour. An hour. Over an hour.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, without our weird cutout in the middle,
Yeah.
which was sorry about
So
that,
I
guys.
can't look at the time. I can't say how long we've been going for, but we've just been going a half hour since that last cutout. So, yeah, sorry for that. I don't know how it's going to affect the stream or whatever. There might be a pause in between it or something weird going on.
Who knows?
Sorry about that. Yeah, we're going live for our first time. That's why I was testing it this time. Next time, hopefully, it'll be better.
Thanks
But
to those who showed up.
We're going to close that. Yeah. Thanks for the troll. Cheers for that. I've reported you.
I reported him too, but
Yeah.
you're all good.
So he's gone.
Um,
But yeah, we'll close it down now. So thank you all for watching, and
Yep.
goodbye for now.
Hey, hit the like button, share it out,
Oh, yeah, of course.
subscribe if you're new and you want us to do more content weekly. We don't usually go live at this point. I mean, do our videos at this point. But I think we'll do it your Saturday.
Or it'd be
Saturday?
my evenings. So your mornings, just so we
Yeah.
can get sort of it hits more the bigger community, and so we'll do it. The next one, I'm off next Friday, and also we could possibly do Friday or Saturday next week.
Yeah,
Saturday
probably
evening.
Friday or Saturday.
So
And
maybe
we'll put
Friday
something
evening.
up. We'll schedule it in. We'll put something up, and we'll see if we can get a guest in for next week.
Yeah. It's just not.
We're gonna try doing these lives until we're sorted. But thank you so much for everyone showing up.
And the support. And please share it out. The more support, the better. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Now, we're still live. Do I click on end stream first or stop streaming?
Stop